Could our changing climate mean changes to our winters? Fox 11's meteorologist Phil DeCastro explores that question.
As long as you can take the cold, there's no shortage of fun to be found during Wisconsin's coldest months. Strap on your skis and hit the trails. Fire up the snowmobile, go for a ride, or just take the family out to the nearest sledding hill. But our winters now are not the same as our parents' winters of decades past. Lauren Casey is a meteorologist with Climate Central, a nonprofit group of scientists and meteorologists that does public outreach on the topic. And she says if winters feel different at times these days, it's because they are.
Some areas are seeing more enhanced warming in particular seasons over others. And in Green Bay and in most of Wisconsin, you're seeing the most extreme warming happening during the winter season. In Green Bay, your seasonal winter temperature has increased 5 degrees since 1970. 5 degrees.
While the shift in temperature does not mean Wisconsin winters will suddenly become snowless, it could mean that they are less reliable. Snowfall could be more irregular, midwinter thaws could be more common, there could even be more difficulty forming lake ice as quickly as we usually do. It means that normal might happen a little less often.
If you think of it as a bell curve, you have your bell curve, right? What we're doing with climate change or global warming is we're shifting that over more into the warm sector. So if you're thinking cold to hot, so you're still going to get cool weather and cold weather, but you're just sliding the scale over.
And that's a big problem because reliability is one of the most important aspects of Wisconsin's winters. Reliable snow and cold, especially in northern Wisconsin economies, make for reliable streams of revenue thanks to winter tourism. According to Kevin Quinn, a professor of economics and associate dean at St. Norbert College's Schneider School of Business, a less reliable winter could have dire consequences for the thousands of small business owners that dot the Badger State.
You know, the cities in those towns that depend upon those revenues that come in, when those revenues fall by 10 or 15%, I mean, they're unable to invest in the town. Fewer people then come to the town and so on and so forth. So this is not a trivial issue for the folks that are in these businesses.
And Quinn says that while the state and region as a whole might not see much of an impact over time, it's the individuals that are likely to feel these changes the most.
The reality of climate change does bring with it the possibility, in fact, the likelihood that some of these small towns are going to be affected by changes in their economic structure. And we should be paying attention to that.
Main things we consider are Pacific temperatures of the waters in the Pacific Ocean, El Nino, La Nina, Pacific Decadal Oscillation. Also look at the snowpack over Asia in the month of October. And we look at Madden-Julian Oscillation, which basically tells us some precipitation oscillations that happen in the Northern Hemisphere. Biggest factor for this year, by far, is going to be the continuing La Nina. This is cold water that upwells off South America and then runs out across the equatorial Pacific. This is the third consecutive year that we have had the La Nina in place. We also have a continuing negative Pacific Decadal Oscillation. Those type of temperature patterns help set the jet stream for the upcoming winter. Is the winter forecast worth it? Is it accurate? Well, in the last 16 years, I've had 6 forecasts inside the range. I've had 3 that were close, but I was a little too high. Say I'm forecasting 50 to 60 inches, we end up with 64. I've had 4 that were close, but it was just a little conservative, where, say, I'm forecasting 50 to 60 inches, and we end up around 48. There were 3 flat-out bad forecasts. Last year, I was forecasting 40 to 50 inches of snow, and we ended up with 43.8 recorded here in Green Bay. For the winter, I am expecting temperatures this winter to generally be below average. December, I think we will be well below average for the month of December, still below average in January, still below average in February, and then closer to normal as we move into March. So temperature-wise, the average winter temperature from December through February is 21.0. I'm expecting between 16 and 18 degrees this winter, which would make it the coldest winter that we have had since 2013, 2014. And running well below average for the winter. Snowfall-wise, I am expecting above average snowfall this year, especially in the early portions of the winter. I think we'll have well above average snowfall in December, maybe a hair above to near average in January, hair above to near average in February, and then in March, again, slightly above average, but overall, I think February, March pretty close. So on the average winter, we have 55.6 inches of snow here in Green Bay. I am expecting between 60 and 70 inches this year. It would make it the snowiest in 4 years, and we would run about 5 to 15 inches above average. So for this winter, look for it to be cold and snowy, especially early. Near normal temperatures by the time we get into March. I think December, January, February could be pretty cold around the area. I think we'll reach -20 at some point this upcoming winter, which we have only done 7 times in the last 20 years. So if you want to break it down, I think we are generally going to have an old-fashioned type of Wisconsin winter.
It is Winter Weather Awareness Week, and the National Weather Story today is a heavy snow to the east around Buffalo, New York, with lake effect snow. That's piling up. Already a foot of snow until midnight. Expecting 2 to 4 feet of snow there, but we can get lake effect snow around here too. It forms the same way, but the wind comes from a different direction. The Great Lakes region is one of the most active areas in the world for lake effect snow. Lake effect snow develops when cold air flows over the relatively warmer waters of the Great Lakes, for instance, like Lake Michigan. The heat and moisture from the lake transfers to just above the lake. Now that warm, moist air rises, clouds form, and snow begins to fall. When the storm clouds hit the land, you can get narrow bands of snow moving over the same area, putting down inches of snow in one area, and then just a mile or 2 away, you could actually see sunny skies. Where lake effect snow falls depends on the wind direction, and looking at Lake Michigan, the hardest hit area is usually the west side of lower Michigan because of the west and northwest flow over the lake. But we can get lake effect snow here in northeast Wisconsin too. We need a cold northeast or easterly wind over the lake. Then you get lake effect snow from Door County all the way down to Milwaukee. Lake effect snow can travel far inland. It depends on how strong the winds are. If they're strong enough, Green Bay and the Fox Cities could get lake effect snow. The lake effect snow machine goes from November until the time the lake starts to ice over, usually around February.
Phil, people really should prepare now for those big winter storms.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. Waiting for those big winter storms to arrive, frankly, is waiting too long to prepare for that weather. And since this week is Winter Weather Awareness Week in the state of Wisconsin, local authorities are stressing that message right now.
We haven't seen the big one yet this season in northeast Wisconsin, and in fact, most snow that fell this past weekend is already gone. But when faced with extreme wintry weather, conditions can deteriorate quickly. And as Brown County Executive Troy Streckenbach stressed on Wednesday with Brown County Emergency Management, proper preparation can make a real difference.
In the emergency world, seconds matter. We hope that these things don't happen, but at the same time, we know that for those who are prepared, they extend out their chances of successfully weathering the storm, per se.
Emergency kits both at home and in your car are both necessities, and there's a lot of overlap between the two kits. Blankets, high-calorie, non-perishable snacks, water, and even if your home has a generator or alternate heating source, Brown County Emergency Management Coordinator Sam Martin says if you aren't prepared to use them properly, there can be tragic consequences.
Carbon monoxide poisoning. Unfortunately, that's a fairly common event in the country. We've had a few incidences in Brown County, typically because people are running a generator or some sort of a charcoal or pellet grill either inside the garage, typically, sometimes inside the house.
And when it comes to your car, it's not just about leaving an emergency kit in your trunk.
Before the worst of Wisconsin's winters hits, you're going to want to check over several things on your car. Perhaps the most important thing is the tires, and for this, you're going to want to use a quarter and not a penny. Now, if you take this and stick it in the tread upside down, if you can see all of George Washington's head, it means you probably don't have enough tread to be adequate for getting through snow. Another thing that you want to check is your wiper blades. You want to make sure that they're in good shape so that they can keep your windshield free of ice and snow. And also, check your battery before it gets too cold out. A lot of places will offer free battery checks, and while the battery might be fine right now while it's in the 40s, it could be a different story when it's below 0 and you need to hit the road.
So don't wait until the snow is flying to make sure these things are taken care of. By then, it could already be too late.
We have a far more comprehensive list of items to include in those kits and things to check on before the worst of winter arrives. Head to fox11online.com and just search for Winter Awareness Week 2021.